Yeah, you might think like, why is this guy from Atlassian staying on stage talking about joy for developers, right? Because to be honest, developers have the great jobs in the world, right? They create stuff. They just like write a few lines of code and deliver that directly to the customer and has impact on the customer directly. So why I'm talking about developer joy here on stage in London? So it used to be that, right? But times have changed, right? So if you look at how software development has changed in the last 10 years, significantly. So the job has changed significantly. You know, we had the cloud coming up, right? So we had to learn all this new cloud vendors, how to use them, their libraries, and so on. Then everything went into little small containers, and we had to containerize our applications. And now we have to observe those containers and see if they are online or not. All right. And then we have microservices. So we have to think about designing the API and what happens if this microservice that I call on the other side is not there anymore. And then, of course, security and governance. Yeah, we didn't have to care about that for a while, but now we have to, because our tools run in the cloud and people are just like, yeah, they just like want to hack into our tools, right? And then, thank you very much, Werner Vogel, right? You build it, you run it. Now we're not only responsible as developers of building the software, we're also now running the software. Great, right? No, don't get me wrong. All the things are just like for the better. So we just like deliver better quality software. Things in the cloud is just like is way better to build software. But here's the thing, right? Everything got put on the developers, right? And it is more developers' cognitive load. We increase that, right? And now people come to developers and say, hey, you know what? 10 years ago, you did way more stuff, right? You delivered way more features than now. Yeah, guess what, right? We had to do all this stuff, right? So how can we bring you back to productivity? I hear that a lot from CTOs and from management. I tell them, yeah, you put stuff on top of the developers, more work on the developers, and now you just like want to get back to the productivity. Where does this obsession come from with productivity? Where does this obsession come from that we want to measure, improve the productivity? So I do a little bit experiment with you. We travel back in time and look where this productivity obsession comes from. Are you okay with that? Traveling back in time? All right, 1, 2, 3. So here we are, 126 years back in time in the Bethlehem Steel Factory. The Bethlehem Steel Factory, they had some productivity issues. So at that time, there was no McKinsey or Boston Consulting Group to call, right? So they hired one guy, right? His name was Frederick Winslow Taylor. Some people might have heard of him. So Frederick Winslow Taylor did actually the following, right? Is that a little bit bumpy here? Okay, anyway. So he did actually the following, right? So he actually came to the factory, and the first thing what he did, he pulled out his stopwatch. So he just like looked at how the factory workers were actually working, how much time things took. He organized a little bit, the workplaces a little bit differently. But what he also found is the workers were shuffling coal, right? And then coal was falling left and right from the shuffle. They were just like made for shuffling soil, right? They were just like normal shuffles. So he gave them custom-made shuffles and increased their productivity by just like that. So better tooling is a thing to increase productivity. But also what he saw was like people were carrying a lot throughout the day, right? And they couldn't carry as much in the evening than they could carry in the morning, obviously. People got exhausted. So what he did is he just like gave the workers more breaks in between. So he gave them more breaks so they could carry actually more throughout the whole day. So great. So how was the result? 400% of productivity increase by Frederick Winslow Taylor, right? And his changes. Great, right? Sounds awesome. But hey, everything comes with a flip side. So what he actually did, he just like did make the workers not to think anymore, right? They just like were doing repetitive tasks. Everything was super optimized, right? And then he got the managers. They were the ones that were supposed to think and optimize everything, right? So this is how we just like look at productivity. We try to optimize everything, but this is 126 years ago, right? And when we look now at how do we measure actually developer productivity, if we think about developer productivity, how do we measure that? can we measure productivity? So the first job that I got, my boss came in and said, hey Sven, you know what? We measure the productivity by the lines of code. So count the lines of code that you have been writing. I can report that up to the leadership teams, and yeah, boom, we got, I don't know, 100,000 more lines of code, right, in the last year. Great. It doesn't have to do anything with productivity. We know that, right? I can write a lot of lines of code if I want, but I'm not it doesn't mean that I'm productive. So maybe we would just like say, okay, how many issues have we moved actually into the done column? Well, that's a better measurement of productivity. But then there are bigger issues, smaller issues, right? So maybe that's also not good. But you might think, yes, Sven, yeah. We just like we do story points, right? So we measure everything in story points. So let's actually do that. Well, story points is an estimate, right? So we estimate before we actually do the job, right? It doesn't measure our productivity at all. It's just an estimate, right? So, and also just like t-shirt sizes, same stories, or cycle time. Now we hear a lot about the DORA metrics, right? Cycle time, deployment frequency. All good things, don't get me wrong, but as developers, we can game these metrics easily, right? We can just like deploy more often if we want. So does that really measure our productivity as software developers? Well, let's assume we found that magic number that measures our productivity, whatever the unit is of productivity, I don't know. Someone can tell me later on. So if we have found that magic number, right, or the magic thing that we want to measure, right, we put more pressure on developers because we want to increase their productivity. So do more pull requests, right? Or faster pull requests, more story points, whatever. We still think in the Frederick Winslow Taylor age, right? This is not productivity. So also, what we now call it is developer experience, right? We want to improve the developer experience for all the developers. And don't get me wrong, I think that's a better term for it. Just like improving the experience of developers, we also improve their productivity. But now also, again, the McKinseys and Boston Consulting Groups come and give us some frameworks of things, right? How to improve the developer experience, or the famous thing from McKinsey here where we have story points again. No. So we thought at Atlassian, yeah, developer experience, great, but we want to call it something different. So we came up with a term of just like calling it developer joy. So how can we bring back the joy into software development to increase productivity by that? Because guess what, right? If developers enjoy their job, if they love what they do, right, they are also productive. So how do we do developer joy? So think about that, like great quality code. So I enjoy working as a developer if I have great quality code. If the code is, I just like look at the code and say, oh wow, that's beautiful. I really love to work with that code. The next thing is progress. So I want to move forward fast, right? I don't want to have blockers or something. If I just like can just like get my task that I have to do just like through the system very, very fast, I love it, right? I enjoy what I'm doing. And the last thing is, of course, we want to create value. Yeah, we want to create value for our customers. And when our customers come back to us and say, wow, awesome, we love that feature that you just like built and I built it, I feel pride in it. So all of this, really, if we take all of this together, then I'm really enjoying my job. But guess what? I'm also productive, right? I'm writing great code, I'm fast, and I create the right things for the customers. So I brought you a couple of stories with what teams at Atlassian have done to increase their developer joy. So these are just like a couple of teams that just like get some time to increase their joy. So the first story goes like this. It's about code reviews. And I hope our developers here in the room, a few, yeah? Hope you're all doing code reviews, right? Yeah? Okay, you're doing code reviews, right? Okay, good. Just to be clear here. But there's a tendency why people don't like code reviews. People don't really like that, to put their work on the spot and show them to other developers, to their coworkers, right? And it is a little bit like this. So if you see just like I added these lines of code, it's a little bit bumpy, but anyway. If I got the first comment and it's this, right? I say, oh, I don't want to do code reviews anymore. But hey, I'm just like a professional software developer. So I ask, hey, what do you mean by that? And then comes this, right? Say, oh, I'm done with code reviews. I'm done. I don't want to put my code in front of my coworkers anymore. But hey, I'm a polite person, so I say, hey, what do you mean by ugly? And then this person comes back to me and says, it would have been nicer if you use a for loop. I used a while loop here. I say, nicer, what does that mean, right? How do I measure nicer? So one thing, if you're this kind of reviewer, right, that gives that comments, one thing here, don't be a jerk, right? Don't be a jerk when you review code. So actually from the developers here, who has been bullied by a jerk recently in the last, let's say, 3 months? No, don't raise your hand. I know your coworkers are in the room, so just nod a little bit, yeah, or twink with the eye, okay, good. Anyway, but these are actually, so those reviewers that give these kind of comments are the problem, really. So these are the reasons why people don't like code reviews. These are the reasons. So the Jira team, actually, they wanted to protect themselves for that, right? They didn't want to have that. So they just like looked at that and say, hey, the reviewer is in this protected bubble and can throw, and then the author is open, right? And then you can throw things to the author. So how do we protect the author better? So we just like, the Jira team actually made some rules for how you review code in a nice way. So the first thing was assume competence. We're doing a lot of interviews with our developers. So before we hire them, yeah, they are competent developers. So yeah, assume these developers are competent that have written that code. Be constructive in your feedback. This code looks ugly, is not very constructive. I can't do anything with that. Doesn't say me anything, right? So be constructive in your reviews and in your comments, and also explain your reasoning, right? A for loop would be nicer. Yeah, great. I want to learn too. So just like, tell me, why should I use a for loop, right? Explain your reasoning for that comment. So they added a couple of other rules, also rules for authors that they should review the code before they put in a pull request. So, and then they wrote this Confluence page with all their code review, pull request, submission, and review etiquette. And that's going to used now. So if someone is violating that etiquette, you can just like say, hey, you know, we have these rules. We came up with those rules to have nicer code reviews. So here are our rules. Please follow them. So that means actually better reviews mean no bullying and more developer joy. It's like code reviews are just like, it's nicer to do these code reviews. All right, assume we have now reviewed the code and we check it in. So now comes a story from the Confluence team. They had actually that problem. And I think all the teams had that problem. So you run tests, right? So after you checked in the code, the tests get automatically kicked off, right? And then things happen, right? The test gets red. So if a test fails, the next thing is what you do as a developer is you look at the code, right? What code, what did I change? Why did it fail? Blah, blah, blah. You can't see it. You look through the log files. You're just like, that doesn't make sense. Why does it fail? I can't really see that. After 15, 20 minutes, you say, oh yeah, well, I'm going to rerun the test, right? They rerun the test, and then the test is green. Boom, right? Great, I can move on. Great, no, well, you just like discovered a flaky test or flaky code, and you have to do something. All right, it's time for a short commercial. I'll be back after the break.
Is seeing red build after red build getting old? Is rerunning your failed jobs getting you down? Is waiting on those failed jobs to finish making you crazy? Deterministic Reliability is here to help. With our handy-dandy flaky test monitoring system, we will, eventually, automatically bypass those flaky tests. For 4 easy payments of free, you too can save time, ship quality code faster, be more productive, feel so much better when you go to work every day. You will be happier, your team will be happier, you'll stop dying inside, you'll stop banging your head against your desk, you'll stop replacing computers that are in a rage against the wall. Sorry. It's just a little close to home. Call 1-800-ATLASIAN today to get your free flake monitoring system.
Don't call. We haven't done a flake monitor. It's not an Atlassian product that we did, but it's the team actually built that. They call it flake off for other teams, right? So how does it work? Well, super simple. You create a pull request. right? Yeah, the build and test kicks off. The test fails. Now said the flaky flake off system says, yeah, here I rerun the test. Test is green. Boom. Discover the flaky test. We skip the test, right? Because it's flaky. We don't want to have that test anymore. But also we add a comment in the pull request to just like look at that. Sometimes also the code can be flaky, and then also. Yeah, we send them a Slack message in the team channel, so someone just like look at that. Anyway, so that means actually getting better tooling, right? And have this flaky tested, less debug frustration. I don't have to go in for 15 minutes and search and then just like rerun and then find out that it's flaky. And at the end, more developer joy, right? So where I get the most joy actually as a software developer is when I'm in the flow, right? When I'm coding, right? And I'm just like, don't see if it's getting dark outside or something, right? I'm just like, oh, it's dark outside. But I'm so into the code, right? But software development is not just about coding, right? We also have builds and tests, and then we deploy it, and we have to just observe, to do the observability stuff and things like that, so infrastructure stuff. So we can optimize the flow here from hours to minutes if we just like do the build and test. We can parallelize the tests, right? Or we can optimize the deployment, just like deploy a small little microservice instead of the whole monolith. But there's one phase actually that takes a lot of time. And this is the review phase. It actually can take days, right, to review it. So again, story from the Confluence team, another Confluence team, and they were measuring it. And they had actually an average of 3 days from creating the pull request to merge it back to the main branch. So 3 days of someone just like work on something else, right? And then come back and fix all the comments or just like resolve all the comments in the pull request that the colleagues put in, right? And think about just like, what did I do 3 days ago? I can't really remember that. One team lead here. So these are the open pull requests from one team. Attached are the reviewers on that team, but one team lead actually, his name is Punit Arora. He's a team lead. And he just like, what he did was actually pretty simple. He pinged everyone that was on an open pull request, a reviewer, and that didn't really review it yet, in the morning before they went into the flow state of developing, and said, hey, you might have missed a notification, right? That's fine, right? But please help your coworkers to move on fast, right? To also get in the flow and review these open pull requests, right? So it was so good. The team loved it. The time went down on the open pull request. It was so good that the team said, okay, Punit, we know you don't have to do that. So we replace you by a bot called the Punit bot that is now pinging everyone in the morning and is actually remembering everyone just like, yeah, there's this open pull request and I have to review it. So we just like move forward fast. The result was they went down from 3 days to 1.2 days. They didn't just like by pinging people. They also found out that, there's this big change set in this pull request, and it's just like I open it and I close it again. So they learned to make smaller change sets for pull requests and all those things. So that's how they came down to 1.2 days. Where faster reviews actually means less wait time for the author, right? And at the end, more developer joy. So I said flow is super important, right? Flow within teams is super important, right? But sometimes we have to go across teams. So how can we build a frictionless flow between teams? Well, the best way is it if we just like remove all friction between teams, right? We just like remove everything and we try to build more autonomous teams that can run on their own. Right? So how do we do that actually? So if we just like see how autonomous teams need to, of course, highly aligned, otherwise everyone goes haywire. But what we do is actually, so we need actually the quality people on the team, the developers on the team, of course, the designers, the ops people, the product people. If they are all on our team, right, we don't have friction and we don't have to wait for the designers to come in, for the QA people to come in and test our code. We can just like, we own as a team, own the task from end to end. This is the actually goal that we want to have, right? Well, sounds good in theory, right? The Trello team actually, they actually went against some walls because they looked at QA, right? They say, okay, let's get a QA person on all our development teams, right? But when we look at how many QA person we have, the ratio is 1 to 30, right? So 1 QA person, 30 developers. We don't have 30 developer teams. That's insane. So we don't do that. So how can we do that? So they were looking at how can we help? How can we still be autonomous or try to be more autonomous and remove friction? But we don't want to hire just like too many QA people because also there's no probably whole like full-time work in a team for a QA person. So they were looking at what our QA person are really doing. So the devs were doing the automatic test and the QA person were doing the manual test or the exploratory test. So they said, okay, now everything is done by the developer. And they called themselves quality assistants. So they are just assistant the developers to make the exploratory tests. How is that done? So we do something like a QA kickoff. A QA kickoff is something that you do before you actually write the code. So you take the user story, you sit together with the QA person and say, how would you test it? And then you write down the test plan, right? And then the developer goes in and implements the code, tests it themselves, runs a demo. That's a little bit part where the QA person can intervene, but then they deploy it. If the QA person don't want to just like be in the demo session, fine, we deploy the code, right? So we put the responsibility on the software developers for doing high quality code. So that has a lot of advantages because now the developer feels more responsible for writing good code, and also we can move faster through the whole pipeline. So that cuts down on dependency and wait time and improves also the developer joy. So the last story is a story that actually, it starts out with a story that I actually had. So product people and developers sometimes don't speak the same language. Even more, they seem to live on different planets, right? On planet product and planet code. So how can we get better with that? So true story here. Someone wrote me a user story and said, as a user, I want to export the data so I can have it in an Excel file. And I said, oh yeah, that's easy done, right? Take a library, blah, 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 export the user data that we have in our database into an Excel file. Easy done, just like a button there and done, right? So then the person came back and said, there's too much data in there. I just like need parts of the data, right? So I said, okay, great, you should have said that before, right? Anyway, no problem, right? I can just like, what data do you need? So I did that, right? And then as a user, I want to export the important data, so I can have it in an Excel file. Also good, right? Done. And then the person said, okay, yeah, now it's important data in the Excel file, but I didn't realize that an Excel file and a CSV file are two different things. I didn't know that, right? I said, oh, frustrating moment again. So, okay, as a user, I want to export the important data so I can have it in the CSV file. Great. So I did that. And the person said, wow, amazing, works great. I exported out of your software and imported in our CRM system. Job done, right? I said, what? What, you need that for importing the data into the CRM system? The CRM system has an API, so I can just like shuffle the data over automatically. So that was really the super frustrating moment where I said, we should have talked more, right? We should have just like talked more about these things, right? We're living on different planets here, right? I didn't know that you want to just like put that into the CRM system. So, and don't get me wrong, product people are great, right? They do all the things, the research, the measurements, the interviews, the experiments, and build the prototypes. So great stuff, right? The problem is then only they squeeze everything into small little user story, and then on the developer side, we should build the running software, we should guess all the things, right? We need to be involved more also on the product side. So the Jira team actually, they were looking at that and they said, how can we bring these two things, two crafts better together, right? How can we just like merge that better? So they were just like saying, okay, what are developers doing? So the developers are in the make phase, right? What we call the make phase, where we create the software. So that's what developers are normally responsible for. And then the the product people are more on the wonder side, right? Where we say, okay, what is the real problem that we want to solve for our customers? Let's have a look at that. So that's the problem phase, right? But that's not all. We also said, okay, we need, of course, a solution phase. Once we identify the problem, then we need to just like find the right solution for it, and then we can give it to the developers, right? And then we have also the impact phase, where we just like we need the measurement at the end, right? We need to see if the thing that we develop has the impact that we thought it should have, right? So. And sometimes I see that the wonder phase be jumped over and no one is doing the wonder phase. We already have a solution in mind. We just like build it, and then we find out, oh, that's not solving the real problem of the software of the customers. Now, software developers are busy people. I told you about all the cognitive load that they have, so you don't want to involve them 100% in all those phases, but you can just like involve them a little bit in the wonder phase and the explore phase. Of course, they need to just like be heavily involved in the create phase, and then also they need to just like know what the impact is, right? Where the product people are probably more like on the wonder phase, and then later on in the impact phase. So how do we make sure that we involve now everyone? So the Jira team actually said, okay, let's add some called milestones or whatever in that. So we're doing a project kickoff. So every project needs to have a project kickoff. Once we know what the problem is, the product people find out, they need to invite everyone. They need to invite the QA people, the IT people, everyone that's working on the project, the whole team that's working on the project. So they are doing that. Then during the solution phase, the explore phase, they just like need to be also, the developers need to also be involved in building prototypes. It's not just that they can just like draw nice Figma prototypes, but we also need to see as developers if that is technically feasible. And then also during the make phase, we need to, as developers, involve also the product people to show just like, are we on the right way? Are we building the right thing? So we're doing product demos regularly. And then during the impact phase, we're doing something called goal signals measures to see just like, what is the impact? And then take that back, and maybe we need to make some changes and adjustments. So I want to talk here more about the demos, how we run those demos. So there's an old picture. We probably don't do them anymore in person. It's now everything through video calls, through Zoom. How we do that, and every demo is recorded. So we record every demo, and I can see every demo of every team that they are doing. So everyone can do that. So the first thing is actually for the demo session, what's super important is that it's open. So everyone should join. So if you are interested in a particular new kind of feature that someone is building, you can join that demo. It's a regular demo that the team is doing. Then it must be outcome oriented. So not about implementation details or which framework we were using. So we need to talk about the customer value in that demo, right? And then also it's a discussion in there, right? We need to challenge the solution. Is that really the right solution? So is that really something? So should I? Is the Excel file, is that the solution? And then no, it's actually something else. So you will find that out during the demos, that you are building maybe not the right thing for your customers. Or sometimes things happen that the product people say, yeah, this is how we defined it, but we're not sure yet. So we take this back now to customers and get feedback immediately. So you don't have the whole feedback loop at the end of when you deploy your software. You have that already when you just like do the demos. And then also you get everyone in one room, right? So you can celebrate also together. That's also nice. So you have everyone that's building this product in one room. You have the QA people, you have the ops people, you have everyone in one room, the designers. So it's also time to celebrate if you reach the milestone. So doing these demos and involve everyone means actually less rework frustration, because you just like find things early on the process. The developers understand the problem better because they are already in the project kickoff, and more developer joy, right? So now I showed you a couple of examples from teams how they got stuff done and changed the way they work, right? But you might think like, okay, we're talking about developer productivity, so what would this guy say here, Frederick Winslow Taylor? Well, he didn't say it, but it was Peter Drucker that said that if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So we need to also see this like, did we really improve things? Did that really improve the way they work? And if we want to start with something, yeah, you might want to start with the DORA metrics. This proven, right, for if you just like develop microservices in the microservice team, then it's proven, yeah, these things are probably good measurements to start with. But you need to also think about what is really the problem that the team has, the specific team. So build time, if you just like measure that on a holistic level, build time for a front-end developer, yeah, 10 seconds of just like until I change something and I can see that in the browser is just like horrible for front-end developer. Build time, an hour for mobile developer is just like the norm, right? So you can't really compare things. So you need to find out what is really important for the team. Deployment frequency for mobile developers, it doesn't really make sense, right? So look at all the things that is important for your team. Pick 1 or 2 measurements and improve that. These are find the challenges that your team have, where you really struggle with as a team, and take those, right? Take those measurements, and we're using actually Compass. That's our developer experience platform that just went GA, I think, a few months ago. So we use that, and we have scorecards in Compass where we actually can see, we have baselines, we define baselines, so we can see, okay, DevOps health goes down, we have to do something, or not, right? Or not. Or maybe, do we have to do something? Let's say if the deployment frequency goes down, but actually what you do right now as a team is building or just like changing complicated part of the subsystem so you know deployment frequency went down, but it's okay, right? It's okay. We were expecting that because we know that we just like, it will go up again, but it's okay. So even though the dashboard says, ooh, not so good, right? You as a team say, we don't have a problem here. So what we do is actually for these things, we're doing a weekly ritual. So we take all the metrics that we're measuring, all the alerts that came in, and do something we call check ops, where we talk about the metrics because you need to add context to the data, right? Then it makes sense, right? And sometimes you say, oh, fuck, the deployment frequency went down. We really have to do something here, right? So we actually built this check-up directly into Compass, so you can do the check-ops ritual in Compass, so you also have just like a list of actions that you want to do and things like that. So I told you all those metrics, right? These we do them on a team level, right? Just on the team level, which is not entirely true, right? We also have some organizational metric or one organizational metric that we track. So one thing, and it is actually change the business, right? We're measuring how much time because we want to actually have our developers spend most of the time building new features and not running the infrastructure or something, right? So how much time are developers actually spend on changing the business? This is something that we measure on a global scale, so on an organizational scale, versus how much time do they spend actually on keeping the lights on? And we found that a healthy ratio between changing the business, or we say a minimum of keeping of changing the business should be 55% of the time they should use on changing the business, and a maximum of 35% on keeping the lights on. Now, said that's just like a guidance. There might be teams that need to spend more time on keeping the lights on. I get this, right? But it's a guidance for teams. If they spend too much time on keeping the lights on, running infrastructure, things like that, then we need to look at that. Now, you may think like, Sven, you can't do the math, right? 55 plus 35, that's just 90%. So what was the rest 10%? Right. So the rest 10%, we actually give people time to build all the things, to work on these punit bots, to build these flaky test detectors. So 10% of the time, developers are allowed to spend on developer joy, right? Improving their developer joy. Besides, also, we have a platform team that also helps improve the developer joy, but the teams themselves, they can spend 10% of their time on developer joy. And we're measuring this. So what we do is just like we have tickets in Jira, and then we put just labels on the tickets and say, okay, does it change the business? Does it, we call it here run the business and not keeping the lights on, or does it just like attach to developer productivity? So we can actually see actually how much time, because there was an initiative where we say teams should spend more time on improving the way they work, so more on developer joy, and we want to see that in the numbers that teams are really using that time, because that's super important for us. Now measuring is great. GitHub did this project called the Good Day Project, where they actually asked the developers how good was your day, right? How productive have you been today, right? And then, of course, on some days you feel more productive than on other days. That's just like normal. Well, and then they were overlaying that with data, right? So just like see if we can find the same things how the developer felt in the data. And guess what? They couldn't find a correlation. Developers thought they were super productive, but the data showed no. And the other way around, right? So yeah, worrying Octocat here. But it's also because we can't treat software development like a production line. It's a creative job. So we build software that has never been built before. We're not building the same car over and over again, right? So we can't treat software development as a production line. Sometimes we have something more complicated, but sometimes it's very easy, right? So don't treat software development as a production line. That's not a good thing. But measurement, we know, is also important, right? So measure what's important, but don't make important what you can measure. Right, so just like take these things as small little signals. But if you want to really find out, what is the problem in our productivity, why are developers not productive? That's a very easy way to find that out, right? Ask your developers. Ask them directly, right? They know actually what bothers them, why they can't be fast enough. They have the answers for you. So we are also running surveys, right? We're running this developer experience or developer joy surveys internally, and we're asking these questions here. How is your speed? Are you satisfied with your speed to ship quality code? What's your feeling as a team, right? How about the waiting time? Like, are you spending too much time waiting? How about your execution independence, right? The autonomous teams. Are you waiting for other teams too long? Are you satisfied with your execution independence? How about the access to tools, practices? Do you have the right tools to get the job done? Effort managing external standards like security and governance. Managing your code and pipeline and infrastructure. Are satisfied with the time you spend on that? How about ramp-up time if you ramp up new developers, right? If you have new developers, how's the ramp-up time? And then also, how's your developer satisfaction overall? That's just like a number that we're tracking, right? So this is our measuring the developer joy survey. So we're asking how satisfied are you, but that's not the only thing, because we are actually, 5,000 engineers at Atlassian, so a lot of different teams, and some of these vital signs are important for some teams, but not important for other teams. So we're also asking how important is that for your team? Right? Because ramp-up time might be important for a team that's just like adding a lot of new developers, but not for a team that's pretty stable. And don't add new developers. So we're asking these two things. And then we're calculating a so-called opportunity score and have a traffic light system attached to it. So you can see actually, if you're just like in this white corridor, it seems to be fine, right? Satisfaction and importance is in a right balance. But if you fall actually, so you can't see that, so importance is here on the scale here down here on the X scale. So if you just like fall too much into the right-hand side, then you have to do something. So you see, importance is high, but satisfaction is low. So these are the things where you should do something. If you fall just like more on the upper side, then you probably think, okay, importance is low and satisfaction is high. We probably don't need to check that. We don't have to ask that question again. If you just like want to remove something and try something else. So we wrote that down, how we measure that. It's a free resource. We call it Developer Experience Survey. It's a play in the team playbook. If you heard about that, I can talk about the team playbook afterwards over some drinks if you want. But so we just like, it's free. It's a free resource, and we wrote everything up there, so everyone can actually do that. All the example questions are in there. Look at them, change them. There's also a QR code, or go atlassian.com/developerjoy that you can run. So the thing is, right, these are just like great indicators for teams, right? When they indicate, okay, we have a problem here, the next step is to build and try new things, right? So try to fix things. You saw that in these examples from the different teams, from the Trello team, from the Confluence team, from the Jira team. Try something out, right? Try to fix the problem that you have. And then also, I said we're just like a big engineering organization, hundreds of teams, right? Share the learnings, right? If one team just like found out that a flaky test detector, built a flaky test detector, more teams can actually benefit from that. So for example here, the Punit bot, right? So this is a blog post on the Atlassian blog, internal blog, right? Where we talked about the Punit bot, and the team just like wrote up how they did it, how does it help, yada, yada, yada. And at the end, I think now 25 teams are actually running actively the Punit bot. The thing is, take your measurements and your survey results. Right? Both of them are important, right? Measurements are just like showing you signals you're on the right track. Survey results just like show you really where you have really problems, and give them to the autonomous teams. Give them a little bit time to just like try to new things and fix things in their developer productivity and the developer experience. Let them improve the quality, the code quality, the progress, how fast they can run through, and the value they are actually creating. And I always want to do a Venn diagram in a talk, and here it is, right? If all three things come together, this is really where developer joy is happening. We became developers for a reason, because it is really fun to do that job, right? So don't forget the fun in it. Developers are doing open source projects on their spare time, right? Investing their spare time to do coding, right? These are passionate people, right? Try to spark that fun again, this joy again. Don't forget to do that. And thank you very much. Thanks for your attention. Have a great day.